welcome. Ash. We are all here because of Ash. We are all here because in some way she touched our hearts and she was incredible. Ash's personality was the brightest of lights. She was a person to be with, and she was a phenomenal person to know. Together, we come together to celebrate and honour her life. That wonderful, bright, charismatic life. Ash lived with abundance, and she loved with abundance, and she was wholly adored. She brought magic into a room, be it a studio, a kitchen, or the hospice. She brought people and communities together. Through her passion for art and creativity, she saw beyond borders, she saw connection. Today, we are all here to love and remember her, but we are also here to acknowledge that it hurts, that losing Ash hurts. Ash was a devoted, fantastic mum, and for Robin, her son, her partner Jim, and her family, friends, and community, it is an enormous loss. Ash brought light. She brought dazzle. She brought glitter. And as we remember her and keep her memory and visions alive, it is also important to remember she will be so dearly and utterly missed. Grief is important to acknowledge, because by doing so, we connect. In an ever-changing world, and a world full of challenge, she brought people together. She brought conversations together through art. She brought love together, and she did it with humour and effervescent colours. My name is Rachel Smith, and I'm a Humanist funeral celebrant. Ash wanted a celebration that represented her. Humanists' core belief is to love, accept difference, and to believe we just have this one life, and to take care of the world and the people around you. Ash did this 1,000,000 times over with a whole lot of enthusiasm and humour. Over the past few months, Ash and I met. We talked, we laughed, and we organised today. She was clear about how it should be, where it should be, and what colours everyone should be wearing. She wanted her life to be told by those that knew her through the different chapters. And what a life it was, with an abundant amount of living and some very impressive mischief. The main celebration is here today, and it will be a non-religious service, but there will be a time later for quiet reflection and prayer if you wish, and then a private committal at Roselawn. The family have asked that this is please respected. After this service has finished, please stay on a while, share a story or two, and if you were lucky enough to buy one of Ash's paintings, please remember to take it home from the wall. Ash became sick in 2018. She was undiagnosed for some time, and then in October 2019, she was diagnosed with a non-curative cancer. She faced her diagnosis as she lived her life. She was open, honest, creative, and kind. She prepared everyone. She brought people together to paint her wake box and talked openly about when she was gone. On the 28th of December 2019, her body couldn't continue anymore. With Robin holding her hand and Jim by her side and her family surrounding her with love, she peacefully died. She has left an unfillable hole, but she has left a legacy, not only in the wonderful Robin, but in the many lives she's touched. The celebration today is a collaboration of memories. We could not fit Ash's life into an hour. The stories, energy, and adventures of Ash, there is no way we could fit them into a short service. But what we can do is hear from some of the people who knew her well and travelled her life journey with her. I'd now like to ask her dad, John, to come up and speak.
The first thing I want to do is to say some thanks to people. I know it's not on the menu, Rachel, but I want to thank the medical staff and the hospitals and the hospices, all the doctors, nurses, therapists, cleaners, volunteers, for their kindness not just to Aisling but to us. I want to thank Jim and Robin for looking after Aisling so well since she was diagnosed and indeed before. We're deeply grateful, Jim. And I want to thank my own family for the support you've given Mammy and me, Mary and me, over Aisling's illness. We couldn't have done it without you. Mary and I want to thank the people of the vault for the magnificent decoration and atmosphere you've created here for Aisling today. It has absolutely blown us away completely. Thank you very much, and continued success in all your endeavours. Mary and I received the gift of Aisling on the 23rd of August in 1971, and we're here today to give back that gift. But we can do it with love, with the love that Aisling gave us over the 48 years we had her. And even though it's with a heavy heart, we know that's what she wants, that's the way she wants us to do it. She wants us to celebrate her and not to pity her or whatever. She grew up in Ashbourne, in Meath, and if normal upbringing in a Reynolds household could be considered normal, she had a normal household, a normal upbringing. She went to school in the local national school and then went on to college or secondary school in the Dominican convent. And then she left school, she worked for a couple of years locally in a shop and decided art was her way to go. And she, from there, came to Lurgan College, spent 2 years, and then on to Belfast, to University of Belfast, which she skipped after a couple of years and got involved in community art. And I don't think the community was the same ever since. She was an individual from day one, a collector, a hoarder, and also an entrepreneur. She was able to steal flowers from our next door neighbour and sell them back to their children. Just a little light down here for a minute. Yeah, she then spent 20 years or more as a community artist here in Belfast and beyond, across the province. And she didn't recognise divisions. She didn't even see them. She wasn't even aware of them. People were people, children were children. People who were disadvantaged, people who needed a leg up, Aisling was there to do it for them, give them that help. And she did it with grace, and she did it with generosity, and she did it with love. She was art incarnate, from her dress to her car, to every part of her life, and is reflected here today in the colour and the brightness of the occasion. The last 12 months of Ash's life was difficult, and I would like to stress that today is a celebration, it's not a canonisation. Aisling could be as raw and tough as any of us. Her honesty in accepting her diagnosis was the most impressive thing you could say about Aisling. She saw it as for what it was. When she spoke about it to us, she was honest. She let us know where she was at. She let us know what the situation was and never flinched, never tried to protect us, but she guided us along her journey with her and made things an awful lot easier for us to bear as a family. And I'd say Jim was the same. It was the same for you and Jim and Rob and Jim. She was, throughout her life, Aisling mangled the English language. If there was a cup leaking at home, to be linking, and if she was driving down the road, she'd be driving down around the roundabout. But in this past 12 months, Aisling, from wherever, I don't know, developed this tremendous use of language and was able to articulate exactly what was going on in life, in her sickness, in every way, and in her philosophy. And the gas thing about her, in her writings particularly, the gas thing about her was the spelling was always right. So she gathered friends around her. They're all here today, and we're very grateful for that. Gathered you all around her to manufacture this weight box by painting and discussing and talking and sharing. And she was cute because she was doing it for herself as much as she was doing it for you. So, you know, she wasn't the same, but we'd like to think she was. All I can say is that we're going to miss her. We love her. We know she's here. And thank you all for coming. And we'll say goodbye to Aisling. Slán at Aisling. We beg the head around the reach. Good morning.
Thank you, John, so very much. Ash was a devoted mum. She adored her son, Robin, and was so incredibly proud of him. She was also very proud and loving aunt to Holly and Jude. I would now like to invite Robin and Holly to come up and make an offering to represent what Ash meant to them. I'm now going to read you a selection of tributes. These are a collection of memories of Ash over the years. So many people could have written stories, and what has struck me is how many people Ash connected with and how many people's lives she touched. She had an incredible skill of making people feel important. She asked several people to gather memories because she felt that they could represent the span of time and capture who she was. She was clear that only her dad and Jim were allowed to speak, and the rest was to be read and shared. I'm now going to read from her brother John, and this is written as like a letter to Ash. Well, Ash, it's come to that time that I've had to make myself sit down and write this letter to you to say goodbye. I was just told this evening by Mum that you have now got renal failure and it's knocked me for 6. She told me also that you have refused to have dialysis, and I think that was a brave decision. I just can't express how much I'm so proud of you. You've taken your diagnosis with such courage, strength, and humility, dignity, and compassion for yourself and all of us. You've held your head up and got on with living with this disease, and it turned it around by helping others and by showing them how life should be lived in the very moment of now. You've shown others a different way of dying by showing the beauty and preciousness of what life means to be lived. I remember when we had chats during our trips to the hospital and you spoke about wanting people to be themselves and not walk on eggshells around you, and that you needed positivity, not negativity. Well, you showed me and a lot of people how it's done, and that inspired me and the others on my approach to living. You had a tough road, Ash, this last year, and you've done your very best to help us all. And now you can rest, now, honey, and enjoy your new home. I know, and you know, that I knew, you knew. I'm not happy about that sentence, John. It's been really troubling me. Is somewhere that we go after death. And it was that look you gave that I understood that you knew that you were going to be okay. We'll talk about the new word later. When you pass on, and that gave me a lot of comfort. You have a way, Ash, of saying nothing at all, but you have the body language and presence to make it resonate with me. Now, how do I start about chatting about your younger days in the Reynolds clan? Well, the earliest one that I can remember was when we were in Sligo on a building site. And myself, you and Paula were knocking about together, and you had stood on a piece of timber with a nail sticking through it. All I can remember was that all hell broke loose and the screams that could be heard from you for miles. I got the brunt end of it from Mum for having Paula on the building site and while Dad tended to your foot. Another time when you and I used to fight like cats and dogs, and you got me by the hair in the living room in number 1, the Green. You were a lot stronger than me. I think I was 9. You had me by the hair, swinging me around the living room, and finished me off by launching me head first into the wall. I'll never forget. You knew you were in for it now from me, and you ran like hell. You almost got caught by me, but you made it past the glass door into the sitting room, and by doing so managed to get my pinky finger jammed in the door, rebate. I remember that moment as vividly as it happened. You were looking at me while holding the door shut, as if to say, he can't get me now. And the pain shot up my arm from my finger getting crunched. I had to start waving back at you as calmly as possible with my left hand to tell you my finger was stuck in the door, and you wouldn't believe me. It took me a few more seconds for you to believe me, but when you did, you went white as a ghost and freaked. Do you remember Nicky sticking the finger with the top of it dangling off under the freezing cold tap? We always used to kill each other, Ash, as we grew up, but we looked after each other too. Do you remember the time in Bachelor's Walk when you were up the treehouse mitching off secondary school? You were out there for a week or two and Mum sussed you out. I remember being very concerned for you and having a chat with you to see what was going on, and you opened up with me and told me. I remember that as a real bonding moment between us, Ash. And then I think around the same time you made mountains of fairy cake buns in the home economics class and hid them around our gaff. You would only produce a small amount at the dinner table, but of course I would find the rest and take liberties which would drive you nuts. Ash, you had a sense of humour that was like throwing a spanner into a room full of fireworks. You said it as it was, but with a twist that could have the room's knees bent with laughter. You didn't care how it reverberated, you let it fly. You knew how to break the ice, as they say, with your brilliant sense of humour. Do you remember the time when I brought a girlfriend home and you stayed on the bottom bunk? Oh, been dreading this line. I think I was only 17, and she came down the next morning. You and the folks were sitting around the kitchen table. It transpired Dad played golf with her dad. I was upstairs still, and the poor girl got hit by a comment from you. I hope your time of the month comes, because you needn't bother calling back to this house. I don't think I've ever got to read that line at a funeral before. I think I might just start adding it in. The poor girl said she wanted the ground beneath her to open up. She was mortified. That was true Aisling Reynolds bombshell. You would just casually drop. Pure magic. On a serious note, Ash, you looked after us all in the family, as you did with Robin and Jim. You have an unconditional love that is non-questioned. It's bloody real and it's beautiful. Your love for Robin is unique and special. You raised him through the years with a love and gentleness that was very close and filled with love and happiness. It's a mother and son relationship worth nurturing that was given from your heart and soul, and that was given well. You've raised a fine young man with all your beautiful and qualities and amazing sense of humour. You should be very, very proud of yourself and Jim. Thank you, John. Now for some thoughts and memories from Malachi. It is so hard to gather and represent the story of a life, and this is kind of the friendship chapter for Ash. Ash moved to Belfast in the height of the Troubles, at a time when people were influenced by paving stone colours and where they should live. Her playful approach to life saw her ignore these divides and brush her own colour, which introduced a different kind of journey for so many. Her love of art and people worked intrinsically together and set the foundations, which enabled her to reach the lives of so many. When she met someone who was deaf, she wanted to experience how it felt to be deaf, so spent a day with soundproof earplugs. Empathy meant walking in their shoes, the basis of how Ash approached people. She reached out to the underdog and brought colour to the blind in her workshops. She held her friendships by the hand and brought many a party to life with a unique sense of fun and adventure. From Abigail's party to making daisy chains, placing yellow polka dots on cookers, and all the things fun, we will always hold a smile with the things we have done. She brought the stage to life with mischief and magic as she played with her ideas and freedom to run. She was living her dream, and her granny's too, with a glitter gun in the Kremlin. Fun and adventure were always guaranteed. It was with her gregarious tenacity she paved the streets of Belfast with vibrance we can all embrace and indeed hold tight in our hearts and minds forever. Her entry to goal in 2018, which is the globe we see before us today, and the words that she wrote for that are this: "My globe is inspired by a fascination of borders, social, economic and emotional divides and barriers which so many of us on this earth find ourselves at, on so many levels. I've always found the word borderline to be sinister, bringing bad news regarding emotional or mental health. I try in my work to bounce back at border issues, divides and barriers in a fun and colourful way, always flowing, decorative, and where I can be teaching the viewer to reach out and touch beyond. With such eloquent words, we reflect Ash's sense of drive for reaching and touching beyond. Exactly how she embraced death and held our hands so firmly along the journey with the production of the exhibition. Every negative turned to a positive, and she formed her milestones to lighten the burden of loss for those she leaves behind. Mal and Ash met 25 years ago on a bus, and in itself, this connection shows how she invited people into her world. The friendship started that day and grew from strength to strength, mostly around a Scrabble board and cups of tea. Ash believed in people, regardless of where they came from and whatever their story. Mal spoke of how she was supporting his choices and supporting him always, as well as being a great party partner in crime. She welcomed him into the family when that was what he needed most. When I was sitting in the cafe with them the other day, everybody was saying all this positive stuff about Ash, and I was like, come on, she can't have been good all the time. She was not this well behaved, I know. And this is what I got. Ash loved mischief and had an element of devilment in her, which never missed an opportunity. One time, Mal was on crutches, and they were in a packed dining room in the middle of the city hospital. Ash pulled his trousers down and ran off into a corner and laughed hysterically as he tried to pull them up again. Her sense of humour always directed circumstance. Negativity vanished with an injection of fun. She would get her wig box out, and nothing gave her more pleasure than a good old dress-up session, playfully exploring perception. From those days, she created Mal's nickname, which always made him smile and remains in the family today, Mallory. As we talked of the Kremlin and the stories of the Kremlin, of those crazy days, we decided that those stories would travel silently through generations. Fantastic memories of days of adventure. Ash used to paint pregnancy bumps, and many of those paintings are now little people, and she was well known for this gift. Here is a poem for everyone, adapted by Mal. The light you always shone so brightly cannot be dimmed. Neither time or space will erase the memories we hold dear. The path you trod was one of colour, fun and adventure, and one of a generous heart. Always concerned for others, you brought laughter through tears and always listened, giving your precious time and your love so freely. To those in need, not just to family, but to friends and strangers alike. Always you reached out and touched their souls. When life tested you to the limit, you met it with courage and stepped forward to deal with whatever it was and do what you needed to do with an unending faith in the goodness of life, giving out to those around you with equal wisdom and support. We salute you for your grace and honesty, for your humour and for the inspiring beauty of your soul. You leave a footprint of love behind, a sacred legacy from your art, and when we think of you, dearest Ash, we need only remember and smile, knowing you are but a heartbeat away. And through our sadness, smile and be glad that for a while we were blessed by your presence as we walked by your side and shared your journey on that train. Okay. To gather words on a lifetime of friendship is so very difficult. To bring together the magic of someone in sentences is impossible. I sat with Darren Fee and we talked of their friendship and of the beauty of Ash's ability to bring people into her life. Ash met Darren in 1990 in Lurgan whilst they were out socialising, and the friendship was immediate. Darren said that Ash was exuberant and always laughing. Above everything else, he loved her sense of mischief and her sense of irreverence. I don't want to meet with Darren again because he says really big words and I've had to really practice them quite a lot, so I'm sorry if I get them wrong. There's one particular one that I really may get wrong. Sorry. She didn't care much for stuffiness or rules, and this was what made hanging out with Ash fun, and this is what drew him and many others to her as a person. The formative years were hedonistic, times of exploration of the mind, and it's a bit of a blur those days. But they were truly fantastic. Ash was able to keep friendships going through distance, and her and Darren kept connected wherever they were. When Darren met Leon, it was so important for them to connect, and they did very quickly, creating a beautiful friendship. As I spoke with everyone, I was told stories of the shack, but no one would really tell me any real stories. As was everywhere, it was made into a place of colour, knickknacks, and magical antics of partyments and devilment. Ash brought joy, ease, and comfort, and was non-judgmental. She encouraged people to be themselves. Darren and Ash's friendship was supportive, kind, and full of hedonistic fun. Ash shared with Darren recently how she felt so protected by him. Their friendship spanned beaches, houses, bars, and many, many friendships developed from it. Ash had brought so many people together. She had a unique personality. She brought colour to many a friendship and many a community. She was admirable in the way she conducted herself in life and the way she viewed her death. Stoicism mixed with a devil-may-care attitude. When situations needed sobriety and solemnity, I hate that word. I've hated it for a week now. Ash was the last to deliver this, and thank goodness for that. At one point, Paula was living in a house with a pool, and when everyone left at the end of the evening, Ash would suggest it would be a great time to go skinny dipping and would be the first to jump in. She created a family in Belfast of people who needed a family. Through many a great party and acts of kindness, she delivered a sprinkling of love. Ash was a story keeper, was a holder of thoughts. She made people feel important and valued. And in this, she will be so very missed. She was full of love and loved to share with others. She faced her death with no pity. She was generous with her time, visionary in her approach to death, and she has allowed people to grow through her bravery and courage. Ash once said, "Life is a journey on a train, a magical journey. She's getting off sooner than the rest of us, but we will all carry her with us." I would now like to welcome Jim to speak.
Thank you, everyone. I'd like to first just echo John's words and thank everyone again for everything that's gone into making today come together. I won't dwell on it, you all know who you are. Thank you again. There's a piece of paper stuck to a door in our kitchen, and that in itself is not unremarkable. There are hundreds of pieces of paper stuck to doors in our kitchen. What is remarkable is what is written on it. In the handwriting of a child, it says, "Ash, thank you for being the best art teacher in the world." Best. What is even more remarkable is that this piece of paper has been stuck on the door in the kitchen for several years. It was given to Aisling by a young female artist participating in one of her community art workshops. A young artist that was very positively influenced by whatever Ash had to teach her all those years ago. So why did Ash stick it on the kitchen door? It's there because its message meant as much to Ash as it did to the girl who wrote it. We know that Ash made a project of her cancer, and that is a legacy in itself. But long before cancer, at the core of everything that Ash believed in was her commitment to sharing the experience of art with as many as possible. She loved teaching children. Everywhere she worked, she excelled at inventing diverse ways to help break down barriers be a catalyst for change, promote awareness, and always with generous splashes of wonderful colour. Ash has left us, but the colour will never fade. Everyone who has ever made art with her still holds her in their hearts and still holds some of that colour. All of you here today hold some of her colour. The magic of her colour will never leave us. Through the many creations she gave us, she will always be with us, most especially with the children. Ash always said that her greatest achievement, her greatest creation, was our son, Robin. This, of course, I completely agree with. So that he may best remember it, I would like to say here today that Ash will always be with you, Robin. You are the only living being who is a part of her and she of you. Not a single moment will ever pass when you two are not together. So as time moves forward and long-trodden paths fade, take courage and don't be afraid. And during the difficult times that must lie ahead, think of Ash and take your broken heart and turn it into art. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you. We are now going to take a moment of reflection and hear some music played by Ursula and Una that Ash requested that they played here today. Whilst they play, please take this time to sit in silence and to think of Ash, or this is your time to pray if you wish.
Feel
you. As we begin to draw to a close and say a final goodbye, I want to thank you all on behalf of Ash's family for being here, for coming to say goodbye, and for more importantly, being part of Ash's life. The family would like to pay thanks to all those that cared for Ash throughout all the charities and hospitals, to those that cared for her physically and emotionally. And thank you to everyone who supported Ash and who've continued to be support for her family. And thank you to the Vault for all you've achieved today. Thank you, thank you. Her memory is threads of a huge, colourful tapestry that brings us all together and is there to be accessed in your hearts whenever you need it. You will carry her and her dreams and love forward. You are all her memory bank. Say her name, share those memories, and embrace them. On the night before Ash died, Paula was staying with her, and she said to Ash said to her, Paula said to Ash, I'm going to be staying with you for the night. And Ash said, oh, great. We can go to an 80s music forest party down in Frankie and Christine's. So let's think of Ash in that forest party. I want to finish with you some thoughts that Ash wrote for you all back when we met. It's a letter from Ash. To you all here today, I'm sitting writing this letter in October 2019 whilst also getting ready for the exhibition Platelets. If this letter is being read, then I'm gone. And I just wanted to have a little word about my life. I've so many rich memories. I enjoyed the madness of Sunday dinners in my childhood family home. Feasting, laughing, good family time. My art gave me a freedom of the mind to wander in beautiful places that we don't see enough of in this world. My amazing friends, the support and the love, unconditional love quietly being there like quiet fairies. You fly down and lift me back up again. You've carried me in the simplest of ways, soup and socks. I believe in community. There is a power of people. If we nurture and love from the beginning, it will come back to nurture us all in the end. So nurture each other and be kind. Robin and Jim, you've been so patient with me. I love the jokes, the mischief, and the little adventures. Do more adventures. Go out and play. Cause mischief without getting arrested. Remember to take time to see the beauty in the world around you. Not just the plants, but the people. Put away your phones, hold your hands, and connect with each other. Thank you for being here.